Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yugioh Everything, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's episode review. This time we will be going over episode 30 of Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's. Isn't it crazy that we are already 30 episodes through this show? I mean, that really is unreal to me, and this episode was really enjoyable because of one character who made her debut, Rook's sister, one of the fiercest girl characters that we have had so far in Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's and maybe all of Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, I am absolutely in love with this girl. She was awesome. I loved her energy, her spirit, even her deck, which matched her current love for music and the wind instruments in particular, because it's all about, you know, breathing and having good lung capacity, which is very important for martial arts, which is her main passion. And so her monsters were these mixtures of martial artists and musical creatures, and it worked really well. And just seeing the command that she had in this episode, I mean, I know this duel was between Yuga and Rook's sister, who I'm just going to refer to as Tiger, because I think that's one of the coolest nicknames a person can have, and it's fitting as well, because obviously she is a renowned and, according to Rook, a legendary martial artist, one of the best in the world, and everything she does, she just succeeds with flying colors, and the confidence and almost borderline arrogance that she has was so fun to watch. But before I really get into her character and the duel itself, I do want to start, obviously, at the beginning, where a little bit of a disappointing announcement is revealed. Obviously, we thought, as fans of the show, that we were getting this Rush Duel tournament. I still have a feeling that we are going to get one, just maybe not for a little bit. But the Rush Duel tournament that was being hyped up is actually a trumpet duet competition in which everyone is pissed at Rook for misreading, and not only misreading, but imagine being Roman, Gakuto, and Yuga, and having to go to training camp. One of the days, which was literally last week's episode, you got starved because you were stranded in that cabin with no food, and you had to, well, I mean, it was only till lunch, granted, but, you know, everything is over the top with these kids. So you had to go through this intense training for absolutely nothing. There's not even a tournament, so they're obviously all pissed at Rook, and Yuga's the only one who's like, well, you know, our club entered. It would be, I think it was Sebastian actually who said, you know, it's going to be bad if a club enters a tournament and they withdraw from it. And so Yuga's like, whatever, let's go to the Wind Club, because why not? I mean, this school literally has a club for everything. So let's go to the Wind Music Club to learn about trumpet playing. And Rook was very hesitant and even scared when they approached the building, because he knew that his sister was the president and really, I guess, one of the only members of this club. And obviously he is terrified of his older sister, not only because she has this fierce, badass personality, but because she is one of the only characters who seemingly genuinely is better than Rook, or maybe that Rook feels is better than him. And that was something that they really hyped up very early on in this episode, that Tiger actually defeated Rook in a duel. Now, I'm not going to put too much stock into it, because this was before Rush Duels were a thing, and based on the flashback, it could have even been 2 or 3 years ago, but Rook was in tears after he lost to his sister, and it just, they played on this theme. Rook is the number one character in the show right now in terms of dueling ability, and you introduce a character that is blood tied to him, so already she gets bonus points for that, and has beaten him in a duel, which no other character in the show has done so far. Granted, again, it was not a Rush Duel, but still, there's something to be said there. And so they built up her character really well, even before she dueled Yuga, and going into this duel, you knew she was going to be a force, and she absolutely was. I mean, she gave Yuga a hell of a duel, and one of my favorite parts about this episode is before they were going to duel, she challenged Yuga to a straight up martial arts fight where Yuga could have picked from like nunchucks and, you know, these other fighting weapons, and she wanted to physically fight with Yuga for him to show his resolve so that she could teach them the ways of the wind instruments. And, you know, it's Yu-Gi-Oh! So Yuga was just like, how about we duel instead? And she was like, all right, you know, we'll put our power of our fist into our cards, you know, something. She said something, some analogy like that, some kung fu analogy. And honestly, it was it was incredible. I absolutely just loved this character. And what's really interesting to note in this duel, not only were her monsters amazing, her ace was awesome as well, is she had a really good chance to actually defeat Yuga. It's very rare, and people that are watching this show and people that have watched Yu-Gi-Oh! For their whole lives like me know that it is very rare. It's happened before, but it's very rare when a character needs to draw something to get a certain effect off and they fail to draw what they need. It is very rare. In fact, when the protagonist is going against a character, that character almost always draws exactly what they need to. And so Tiger has a chance to draw into a wind monster to get an effect off that would lower Sevens Road Magician's attack. And if she draws this monster, because Curtain of Sparks, which was Yuga's set card, was frozen due to another monster's effect, she wins. Simple as that. But she fails to draw the card that she needs to draw. And how seldom does that happen in a duel in Yu-Gi-Oh! In the anime, at least. In real life, it happens all the time. But in the anime, it never happens. And so I think it was really important to point out that Tiger really was very close to defeating Yuga. And I know we can say that in a lot of duels, but this was literally her failing to draw a card that she needs. Something that 99% of the time, a Yu-Gi-Oh! Character in an anime is always going to be able to do. And I think it was very purposeful that they set it up that way, where all she had to do was get a little bit of luck, although it was probably a 50-50 given the amount of monsters to spells and traps that she probably has in her deck. It might have even been more than a 50-50, and she just got a little unlucky. And that was the only thing that was between her losing and her defeating Yuga. So even though she lost, and this is sometimes what I love about the show, that even in a loss, you can show that a character is still a very tough opponent. And this is a character whose primary source of happiness and energy doesn't even come from dueling. This is just like a prodigy character that can do whatever she wants and is going to be great at whatever she does. And she was a draw and an effect away that most of the time a Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime character gets off from defeating Yuga. But of course, she was unable to get that off, and so Yuga's able to take one last turn. He summons his new ace monster, and that monster being Cess, the Mighty King of Bestial Wings, which we knew was coming. This was a monster that was revealed, I want to say right before Yuga and Neil dueled a few weeks ago. It might have even been earlier than that. Honestly, my sense of time has been horrific recently. But we knew that Rook's new Dragears was coming, and it was used literally in his first duel of the season, of this new arc, and in that really trippy, weird duel. And we knew this new ace of Yuga was coming because these were the pack monsters, the monsters on the cover of the new Rush Duel packs. And it's not surprising that they are shown in the very first duel of the new arc. So, had a feeling this monster was coming. It was a really, really cool monster with a really interesting effect that worked out for the situation really well because his opponent had 3 monsters on the field, and because he had 3 set cards, he was able to deduct 3,000 attack points from Tiger's ace, and then he was able to just attack and get the win. He drew 3 copies of Sparks in that final turn, and actually had to use one to get Tiger's life points down from 21 to 1900. And I love, again, this is a character in Rook's sister that seems very spiritual, that seems very in tune with everything. And so I love that moment where Yuga's dealing the final attack, and they almost get teleported to this weird, like, interdimensional plane where, you know, they're standing on the rocks, which is very martial art-like. And, you know, Yuga is obviously not used to that, so he gets terrified and just kind of crouches immediately. And Rook's sister says, I was very worried about my brother when I beat him in a duel. It seemed like he had no direction or purpose. Your rush duels, and you gave him purpose. And I knew when I watched you guys duel, so it was revealed that she was actually watching the duel from the second episode, I knew when I watched you guys duel that he was going to be okay, and he finally had a purpose. And a lot of what she was asking Yuga about during this duel was, what's the purpose of rush dueling? What's next after the fight? And Yuga said it's to smile, and, you know, Rook, kind of that comedic moment where he stepped in and was like, it's to become the king of duels. Oh, no, I mean, it's to smile. So it was just kind of nice to see, get a little bit of backstory on Rook here, that he kind of was lost as a character and as a person until rush duels were established, and that his older sister was worried about him. But I thought this overall was a really good episode. Obviously, the final attack goes through. Rook celebrates like his favorite sports team just won the Super Bowl, and, you know, his sister gets angry at him again for not referring to her as Tiger. And then she trains them all on how to play the wonderful trumpets and flutes and all those woodward instruments, trying to prep them for the trumpet duet competition. But all in all, I thought it was a really good episode. I love when we get these kind of surprise sibling episodes. They do not happen really that often. Usually we know from the get-go if a character in Yu-Gi-Oh! Has a sibling or not. So it was a very pleasant surprise that Rook had an older sister. And even Gakuto said at one point in the episode, that's Rook's sister for you. And it really, really was. It was exactly how I envisioned her. This fierce, just badass, almost borderline, again, arrogant character, and I absolutely loved her. She was a treat to watch, and I hope we see her duel again, and I hope she has a presence in this show going forward, because even just seeing Rook kind of quiver in her presence, I thought was hilarious. But overall, fun episode. Next week will be interesting. That green-haired character that's dueling Rook is voiced by the same guy who sings the first opening, so, you know, we'll see what that's about. But again, no episode next week. We do have to wait till January 9th for that episode to air. But guys, please let me know your thoughts on episode 30. Let me know what you thought of Rook's sister and the duel in general. I am super excited to hear from all of you down below. And a special thank you to my Platinum tier patrons, Horace Maye, Goosey Q, Panther J, Blue Maiden 28, Jarrett Buller, and Aura Dragon, and to my Diamond tier patrons, Jesse Wood, Latrell Smith, and Anime Kaput, and to my Egyptian God tier patrons, XZ's Lover 104, Pegasus Seiya, and Stella Sky. Thank you to everyone who supports me on Patreon. Thank you to everyone who's a YouTube channel member. You guys help me out immensely, and I would not be able to do this without all of you. I will talk to you down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day.